Welcome to an edition of Boxing Info. I'm your host, The Islander. In this video, I want to, again, try to keep it short again, but actually give you my recap or take on Andre Ward and Sergei Kovalev, which I've missed over the past few months. And really quick, before the fight, as you all know, I firmly believe that Kovalev won the first fight. And my expectations before this fight was that Ward would probably make better adjustments as he did in the last half of a fight. And that's one thing I want everybody to look for, is that when two guys fight, like, for instance, Triple G and Canelo, the guy who's doing better at the end of a fight that's either a controversial decision or a draw, or a controversial, the guy who's doing better at the end of that fight is probably going to win the second fight. Case in point, go way back to 1980, where Sugar Ray Leonard was outfoxed by Roberto Duran, and Duran got Leonard to fight his fight. Leonard was doing really well in the championship rounds of the brawl in Montreal. He was doing really well at the end. He had finally he was still fighting Duran's fight, but he was fighting Duran better at that fight. And Duran pretty much was basically coasting to the end, thinking he had the fight in the bag. But again, when they fought the rematch, Leonard basically got the better of him and won the fight. And that goes well in most tight, and I wouldn't say the brawl in Montreal was controversial, but keep this in mind, the first Kovalev-Ward fight was controversial. But the guy who was doing better at the end of that fight was Andre Ward. So my thoughts going into this fight was that Ward was going to make the proper adjustments and win the fight cleanly by a decision. Now, as the fight played out, I was very surprised at Kovalev. I thought it looked like he was pacing himself and was winning most of the early rounds, if not, up through the 5th or 6th round. A case could be made that he won almost every round of the fight, and then Ward started fighting. More so with a heavy emphasis in the 8th round, where he was basically now engaging Kovalev, and the pace looked like it was getting to Kovalev as he was slowing down. Now, obviously, the controversy with the end of this fight is the fact that Andre Ward, it appeared to me, hit Kovalev in the cup, not once, not twice, but 3 or 4 consecutive times, which made Kovalev double over, and the pride of the Russian was not to take a knee. It's funny how I guess we'd really, that has a whole nother meaning now, but not take a knee and go down. Obviously had Tony Weeks, stop the fight. In the Ward fans, I'm talking about HBO and everybody else involved, that was the greatest thing that could possibly happen. But to me, it leaves questions, because I still don't think that, Ward, legitimately has beaten Kovalev. Even though most people in boxing have accepted this. Now, since then, Ward announced that he was going to retire about a month ago right now on September 21st. And, I respect it and everything. I still think he's got a lot of work to do. I would like to see him unify all those titles against Adonis Stephens. And even if we can't get that fight, that's fine, because Kovalev is going to be back in the ring. And he's going to be working, towards probably a fight against Adonis Stephens or one of those vacant titles, which you know how much I hate that. So basically, going forward, I think I'm a little surprised that Ward, and it seems like boxers are getting a little bit smarter now, and it's, as I've said before, boxing has been ruined by globalism and big money, and I think some of these guys like Timothy Bradley and Andre Ward are getting out before they get badly beaten on or damages done that's irreversible to their health. And it's one of the good things about the amount of money that's basically been infused into boxing. Although I feel that most boxers or fighters don't sell out like they used to, which is really what I was mostly what I was upset about with Triple G and his effort against Canelo. That prior to the pay-per-view era, and we're looking back when I say that, I'm talking about going way back to the early 90s or late 80s, before pay-per-view, because I never saw a pay-per-view fight until the first pay-per-view fight I bought was Buster Douglas against Evander Holyfield. I know they were probably available before that, but that's the first one that we bought. That when you had to fight to get the closed circuit TV status, those guys dug in and basically fought hard. And I know this is a different time, but that's one of the things that I think that that when we see, if you ever get to see Sergei Kovalev fight Adonis Stephens or Andre Ward fight Adonis Stephens, I'm looking for the guys that understand that they still have to fight for something. They still have to, reach for the other level. And a fight that I keep watching over and over again and analyzing, it's playing on a computer behind. Actually, this computer I'm recording on. Let me see if I can bring up the audio to it so you can hear it. Because the thing is, I just keep analyzing this fight to death, and it makes me. I'm thinking next month in November. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but that's Aaron Pryor against Alexis Arguello in the first fight from November of 1982. That was on HBO, and the situation with this is, you can't expect everybody to perform like this. But one of the things I take away from it is that this is what champion against champion, where basically status in the sport, status for history matters, and it's not taken for granted, and they're not fighting for money. They were getting the biggest paychecks of their lives, but they understood that there would be more if they performed, and they sold out. And that's what I hope the next time we see Canelo and Triple G in the ring. Now, keep in mind what I told you, because these are some what I call Islanders' truthisms or his patterns. If there's a controversial fight, usually the guy who's doing well at the end of the first fight is going to win the second fight. Usually. That would make an easy call for this second fight between Andre Ward and Sergei Kovalev. All right, I'm going to try to get another video up where I actually recap last weekend's fights too.